Thank you. Well, early voting in Maryland starts today, and already nearly 80,000 mail-in ballots have been sent in by voters. But there are questions swirling around the ballots after the State Board of Elections had to send out nearly 500,000 replacements, and that adds more uncertainty to what some already feel about election integrity. So joining us now to talk more about this is Ken Cuccinelli, former Attorney General for Virginia, now with the Election Transparency Initiative. Sir, always good to speak with you. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
And first, let's just get into it. We've got these replacement ballots sent out. Then we have the decision Tuesday that would allow votes to be counted, but only if the voter's party affiliation matches their ballot. It's a lot. Are these contingencies and replacement ballots enough to ensure an honest voting process?
Well, they are obviously a fix, but there's going to be inevitable confusion with fairly large numbers of voters. And it's important to realize that the average voter doesn't really pay attention to any of this stuff until their ballot arrives. And so the perspective you have to take for a good system is, how's that going to go? And obviously they know this is going to be very confusing. Some people aren't even going to spot the mistake and are going to attempt to vote this incorrect ballot. And so they've sent the replacements. But we all know the mail, it's very slow. The playing catch up through the mail is a very dangerous thing to do. Here in Virginia, one of our most Democrat cities, Petersburg, Virginia, has the longest serving director of elections, and she has for many years advised folks to not mail any ballots. Come vote in person. We have early voting, like you all do, and or on election day, because the mail is so unreliable. Throw on top of that 2 rounds of mailing out ballots, and you have a real opportunity for confusion. I saw comments by your Senate president, which I very much agreed with, about his concerns for both confusion, one, and what it does to people's confidence in the outcome of the elections. There's nothing nefarious about this. It's a mistake, but it's a huge mistake. And it really does go a long way to undermine confidence. And it didn't have to happen. This is a fixable problem. And it arises because of the automatic mailing out of ballots instead of doing a system that has one confirmation in it, and that is mail ballots to registered voters who request them. And that's not hard to do. Virginia and many other states do that. But the automatic mailing of ballots invites mass scale problems like this.
And additionally, I want to talk more about public trust, as you mentioned there, Ken, because, you know, this week we have what's playing out in court between the DOJ and the state of Maryland over voter rolls, the debate there between private info versus making sure those who should not be voting are not voting. Do you believe that federal scrutiny there helps with public trust?
I definitely think that with both things happening at the same time, you've got Maryland hiding its voter rolls from the federal government. And I know how people feel, many people in Maryland feel about President Trump and it's his administration. But the federal law says that the federal government gets to review those. I mean, that's right in the text. So the question becomes, what are you hiding? At the same time, you make a 500,000 voter error, and it doesn't make Maryland look good. You know, at the same time you're hiding your voter rolls, you're making a mistake of this scale. And so these things start to pile up. And, you know, I don't think it's unreasonable of Marylanders to ask, is this how our system should be working? Because they've added factors that aren't helpful to public confidence, create opportunities for massive errors, like you and I were just discussing, all while they're trying to hide information. And it isn't like that information gets publicized if the federal government reviews the voter rolls, and they have found massive errors in other states. So, you know, what are you hiding, Maryland? And we've got some problems to fix. I hope they face up to it, and I hope that they go to a voter-driven system where voters can request their ballots. When you have that sort of a system, you don't get this kind of mass-scale error.
And speaking of some of those other states, we just saw a very closely watched primary out in California, highly publicized. The president even claiming the election was rigged in a recent interview there. Does slow, Ken, mean inaccurate?
Slow doesn't automatically mean inaccurate, but that isn't California's only problem. California, take the Spencer Pratt, who was running for mayor in Los Angeles. He still is, because the vote counting we're still a long way off from them finishing. You saw one ballot dump there with 24,000 ballots and not a single Spencer Pratt ballot. And there are 3 leading candidates. If he has 1% support in that part of Los Angeles, and there's no part of Los Angeles that one of the 3 major candidates doesn't have at least 1% support, the chances of a 0 ballot dump like that are smaller than the total number of atoms in the known universe.
Just the margins are crazy. Yeah.
It is crazy. And so again, to your point about confidence, it does undermine confidence. It does seem impossible for something like that to happen without something other than a severe error or some sort of ill motives. And California, unfortunately, biggest state in the country, is also the biggest poster child for a slow, plodding, and rather incompetent election system.
And you already made some suggestions here in our time with you. I know we're almost out of time, but Ken, what is the best thing election officials and the state can do moving forward to be transparent, to either rebuild or maintain that public trust and confidence in election integrity?
So Maryland hasn't done this, but California has continually goes the other way on transparency. They stop campaigns from being able to watch the process. They stop citizens from being able to see what's going on in election offices. At the Election Transparency Initiative, we believe you should be able to see literally every single thing in your election except how your neighbors mark their ballots, right down to the computer code on the machines that are used, whether it's holding the voter rolls, whether it's tabulating the ballots. Openness inspires confidence. And the single biggest thing Maryland could do is to stop mailing the entire voter roll, because the voter roll is always wrong. 2% of Americans move every month. That's a 48% moving rate in just a 2-year election cycle. And we're always, all of us in every state are playing catch up. But if you allow a system where the voter drives it, the voter can simply by email, by phone, by written, request their own ballot, you have massively secured against the exact kind of problem that you and I are talking about today, and it will substantially increase confidence in Maryland's elections.
Ken Cuccinelli, former Attorney General for Virginia, now with the Election Transparency Initiative. Thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to join us this afternoon.
Good to be with you.
You too. And as a reminder for you at home, early in-person voting runs through June 18th. Election Day is June 23rd, with the polls open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And you can scan the QR code on your screen to see all of our election coverage. Again, early voting in D.C., it continues through the 14th. Then Election Day is June 16th in the district. You can find polling info and candidate profiles up on our website, WJLA.com. And we will be right back.